what are your thoughts so far? Lakers back-to-back losses going into the break. The night we recorded, and I was in a phone booth and sounded like I was on a walkie-talkie, they lost to the Jazz in Utah with a full complement of players, basically. Last night, lost to the Hornets. LaMelo Ball did his thing. LeBron couldn't get one to go to tie things up late. Luka Doncic, I think 5 for 18 from the field. Did rebound and distribute well, but hasn't found the offensive groove just yet. Concerned at all about what you've seen by the Lakers? Just now you're just chalking it up to this as part of the process.
I think it's part of the process, but they still have a clear hole in the front court. And listen, Luka's an incredible player. You know how I feel about him though. Like, he's not on the floor at the end of the game last night on that last possession where LaMelo gets a floater because he can't play defense. And he's a very heliocentric player who is like playing mostly point guard, but he still has to share ball handling responsibilities with LeBron. He's not someone that's going to like stand in a corner and catch and shoot. So it's kind of an awkward fit there. I'm just saying that Luka Doncic needs a very specific team around him to be successful. And the Lakers obviously kind of threw this together in the middle of the season because that they saw the opportunity to get their future star and not have to worry about anything in the post-LeBron Los Angeles era. And I totally understand why they do it or why they did it. But like, I'm still sitting here going like, this is only further proving that Luka needs a very specific team around him to be successful. Because if the team isn't directly built to his strengths, he's not the easiest player to just plug and play because how much he commands the ball, because he only plays one side of the floor. Like, he's one of the most talented playmakers we've ever seen. He's an incredible scorer. He's a much better shooter than he's shown. And I do think that it's mostly just growing pains, but I don't think that it's nothing that like you can't just throw Luka Doncic into the mix and make it work the way that you could with some of the other best players in the world right now.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think that what I'm curious to see and figure it out, because they do have a runway. We talk about this runway. He's not playing tonight in Portland. Again, Thursday, February 20th. And the big one is going to be next week. They play against Dallas early next week. So a lot of eyes will be on that. It's going to take a lot of LeBron changing because, like you said, Luka's probably not going to be the guy who they can change that much or is going to change that much. That's not even meant to be a knock on him. We've seen this guy lead and team to the NBA Finals playing the way that he plays. Like, that's not, we've seen James Harden play similarly but different, but that ball dominant style, and it's led to winning MVPs and being successful and going on crazy scoring tears. But when you are joining a team midway, it does make for a little bit of a tricky situation. They do have about 28, 29 games to figure it out and see, where to go from there and how it looks. But I'm very interested to see how they're able to make things happen. There's a little bit of a log jam between, I guess, 3 and 6 or 7. Like they could very well fall out of that top 6 and have to play in the play-in tournament again. So to see, they have a lot of key games. I was looking at this down the stretch. 30 games. They had 30 games coming out of All-Star break. I consider 7 of them gimmies or must-haves. They lost one of them last night. So that's not a great start. But 8 of the 30 games are also against teams who are ahead of them in the standings. So they play the Nuggets, I think, 3 times, a couple games with the Thunder and a couple of games against like the Rockets and Grizzlies too. So they have a lot of chances to help themselves, but I'm just curious to see what it's going to look like and what a potential playoff matchup would look like for them, or what an ideal playoff matchup would look like for this Lakers team.
And another player that I kind of fit, and you and I talked about this when you were out here, but another player that I feel for in this entire situation is Austin Reeves. Like, he was absolutely balling before this trade. And like, even after the trade, like the first game they played when LeBron didn't even play, Luka wasn't even in LA yet, and he just goes off for like 40 points. And it's like, this guy seemed to be taking it up another notch. And now he is like kind of like regressing his role into being like, the third option as a ball handler, playmaker. Now they really need his perimeter shooting. And like, again, he's one of the best players on that team. I don't know where you would rank, like maybe third. He might be the third best player on that team, like 4th in terms of fit, like depending on how you feel about Rui Hachimura. But like now he's also taking a lesser role because like LeBron and Luka are so ball dominant. I'm not sitting here going, oh, they got to get Austin Reeves the ball more. Like that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that like they had something that was working, and now, it was always going to be a little bit of a jumbled mess at this point in the season. And can you really take away anything that we've seen in the first, whatever it is, 4 games of Luka's LA career? Like, no, because he was on a minutes restriction for the first couple, and then he finally got off the minutes restriction last night. It's going to take time for them to figure it out and for things to mesh. But it is going to be a much more like high pressure and back end of the season for the Lakers now than it would have been if they just stood pat. And again, they didn't make this trade for the betterment of this individual season. They were doing this for the foreseeable future for the franchise. Completely respect it. But it's just like the rest of this season, they are really going to have, kind of the pedal to the metal in terms of trying to expedite how quickly Luka can fit in next to LeBron James and the rest of this team before they face another first round playoff exit.
Yeah, that's the perfect way to put it. Okay, like they're balancing every game being a must win essentially, but also trying to figure out a balance between 2 superstars every night. And it's like you got to do that with very little room for error, very little margin for error, and a very small runway. Because at first I was like, you know what? 2 months is a long time. But when you really think about it, when you think about the size of both of their stars, it's really not that long of a time. So again, the biggest thing is kind of, in a weird way, them auditioning for free agents and people they want to get next year. And the whole Mark Williams fiasco and more coming out, his agency saying that he would have passed any physical, leads me to believe that, one, the Lakers found a loophole to get out of the trade because they have something big coming down the pipeline this summer. And 2, there's going to be a Mark Williams rule moving forward in which the same way the NFL has independent neurologists come on the field to evaluate players, the NBA is going to have independent physicians come in and give physicals to where you can't say, oh, no, we don't like this. I was looking back history of rescinded trades before we wrap up here. And I talked to you about the Tyson Chandler one in like 2010 or whatever a year that was. I was on hand for New Orleans Hornets, Oklahoma City Thunder, which is kind of crazy to think if Tyson Chandler played with Russ and KD and James Harden. Wild. But there was one, the Raptors traded Alvin Williams and Sean Marks, the Nets GM, to the Celtics for Danny Fortson back in 2000. And I was reading up on it. The Celtics just got so much backlash about that trade. They said Alvin Williams failed his physical, trade rescinded, boom, back to Toronto. Now he's a Raptors legend and does analyst work for Raptors games. Maybe that would have never happened had the trade not been rescinded early on in his career. So there's your fun fact. Celebrate the Raptors 30th season with something that happened 25 years ago that a lot of people might not have known about.
Yeah, that is. I've never heard that one, but like Tyson Chandler was a big name, and obviously like he ended up going on to win NBA Finals the next year with the Mavericks and was awesome. He was incredible that entire playoff run, that entire season. But I do think that like there's something with just like in the fallout of the Luka AD trade and how big that was and like how magnified that was. And then it was like, oh, the Lakers need a big. And then they went out and got Mark Williams. And the fact that he would have been LeBron and Luka's teammate and now it got rescinded, like that is the type of spotlight that the NBA needed on a situation like this to, like you said, come up with like essentially a Mark Williams rule. Because I don't know. I mean, for the listeners who haven't really been following along much, like Gil said, the agency came out and said that Mark Williams passed his physical. Like he would have passed any physical. Mark Williams came out and admittedly, like just openly said, like maybe the Lakers felt like they had given up too much with that 2031 first round pick. Like he was very confident. I think his exact words, he was like, man, I was out there playing like 38 minutes the night before. Like he'd been playing some of the best basketball of his career. So like even he's starting to put the tinfoil hat on a little bit and being like, I don't really know what went on here because I don't think I failed that physical. So yeah, I mean, it's one of the most bizarre situations that we've seen in our lifetime in the NBA. And it would not shock me either if they end up making a rule because of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, this offseason is still yet to play out. So there's probably more to come.